Is he playing any Riptide Labs with those, or no?
No.
Okay, so for the most part, a large smattering of removal, some value creatures. His main way to win, I believe, would be a Loam Engine with Creeping Tar Pit.
Yeah, I mean, Creeping Tar Pit seems like his main win condition.
Or Jace.
Jace is probably how he's going to win most of his
So
games.
Matt, really, at that point, that's like kind of what I like to describe as he's winning. It's winning through frustration. You know, I'm the control deck. Look, I've controlled this game to the point of, haha, I can kill you using whatever.
Exactly. Like, he gets the game to a point where his opponent is just floundering around doing absolutely nothing.
No
and he
cards
just
in
attacks
hand,
with his opponent.
no creatures on the battlefield,
Yeah, he
no
attacks
hope.
with a tar pit until his opponent dies.
Right. All right, Pat Cox, I think a Brave Soul here is running Maverick at this tournament. Calling him a Brave Soul because Maverick is kind of has trouble with Gristlebrand, but he's plodding forward. Remember, Pat Cox 1-0 with his Legacy deck.
Yeah, I mean, he's Pat Cox. He cannot, like, he has to play Wild Nicottle, right?
Yeah.
And obviously he does not have Wild Nicottle.
All right, we're going to pause here on this one. I noticed that there's some audio lag going on, so we're going to restart this match. Hang with us. We'll bring you Pat Cox versus Matt Costa in just a second.
Or are we supposed to? All right, and welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. We just had a little issue with audio lag. Now we're back to bringing you guys coverage of a match between Pat Cox and Matt Costa.
Yeah. You missed some intense shuffling. Sorry about that.
No,
Both players still shuffling and resolving mulligans.
it didn't really miss much. Now, Pat Cox leading things off with a Savannah.
Then, all right, Savannah means your intentions are well known, and as are Costa's of Underground Sea go.
That's going to start in about 15 minutes. That is $10.
Matt Costa's deck is
Standing challenge. It's going to start about 6.
very good against combo decks, but it may not be the best deck ever against a creature-based deck like Maverick. I mean, he has some Innocent Blood, some Diabolic Edicts, Ghastly Demise, and Damnation. Maybe he's fine against those,
He
too.
did score a really good play there in Spell Piercing a Green Sun Zenith.
That's kind of huge.
That's huge. I mean, it lets him turn on a Spell Pierce, which is a pretty dead card in the matchup. For record, by the way, Pat's on a 6-card hand here, whereas Costa kept a full 7. Pat with 3 lands goes to Knight of the Reliquary, and remember, Matt plays hard counters, such as Counterspell, but...
I mean, Matt has a whole ton of stuff that his deck can do here. He could just untap in Liliana.
And I think that's the route he's going to go with it, too.
Yeah.
That's Drowned Catacomb. All right, Liliana.
Seems reasonable.
Sure, it's a dual land. Liliana now on 1 counter. As long as he can 1-for-1 answer Pat long enough, he'll probably get ahead. Or at least, I mean, that's his game plan. Matt also has a certain Mind Sculptor in his hand, which is probably also part of the game plan. All right, going to waste him off green mana.
And that's going to keep him from sculpting mines, at least for a little while.
And Scavenging Ooze enters the board. And Matt's thinking about, he's going to have to force that. And he's, there will be no Mind Sculptor for now.
But that's not the end of the world. I mean, after getting your land wastelanded, especially when you don't have a 3rd land in your hand, Mind Sculptor's got to be the card you're supposed to push there.
Remember, there's more Mind. That's the patience of a control deck, is just telling yourself, there's more Mind Sculptors in this deck. It's okay. You can get rid of this one.
And there's another Mind Sculptor.
Yep. So he had 2 in his hand when he made the force play?
I guess so.
Okay.
Or I think he may have just drawn one this turn. Because he drew the Preordained last turn.
Yeah, I think he drew the land this turn. Because he didn't have the 3rd land.
Oh, you're right. Huh. So I guess he just had 2.
Okay, well, then pitching 1 seems great. What to do with the Liliana? You probably tick Liliana up here. Matt has a Spell Pierce, I believe, in his hand still. No, it doesn't. He has a force, but okay, he's going to choose not to use Liliana. He wants to make sure he still has a force option available. Another Scavenging Ooze. I almost still like ticking Liliana up there.
So do I. I mean,
because
force is pretty bad.
Well, because then you wouldn't have to force this or do anything about this.
Yeah, then
Scavenging
you
Ooze.
just spend the force, and you don't have to spend the life or the
I guess
brainstorm.
if he has the 4th land on top here, he can just untap and Jace bounce it, which is pretty solid.
Well, he finds an Edict, He also finds the land, so
Do you have a
looks like he's
preferred
going to be
direction on
fine.
that? Did you edict?
I think you Jace bounce.
Yeah, it's an opening on the board for Jace.
Yeah,
Jace, one of your favorite cards, I believe.
Yes. How would you have guessed? But when you have an opportunity to cast Jace and then use the -1 ability to create an empty board, and then you still have removal spells in your hand, and
Right.
you have a Liliana in play that you can
Very
then pick
good.
up and get rid of that force, it's just kind of insane.
Now the question is, though, is there anything he has to worry about right away? Killing? Yeah, there's no
There's no hasty guys.
hasty guys. No, it just seems like the play.
Yeah, so he's
Alright,
gonna
Jace will come down.
bounce the Scavenging Ooze with the Jace, and then he can tick the Liliana up and discard his Force of Will.
That's what I would do.
That is what I would do, also.
The question is whether or not, and he'd probably be just fine with Pat discarding a Scavenging Ooze, so yeah, he'll do that and then they'll both discard. And yep, Force of Will's gone.
See, now by not taking the Liliana the last turn, he actually
Was able to force Pat to discard a card of his choice.
Yep.
And he did know the fourth land was there, so I guess there's very few creatures. The thing he'd be worried about would be one drop out of, would be 2 creatures out of Pat, or maybe this play, getting Dryad Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but with that Edict in hand, I mean, Edict will unfortunately be a LD spell.
Now Pat's going to have to attack with this Dryad Arbor here.
Right.
If he doesn't.
Which is pretty good. I mean, it forces Matt to use a kill spell on Dryad Arbor, which isn't exactly what he wants to do. He's going to attack down Liliana. The reason being is I think he's going to try to establish more creatures than Matt can deal with, which is a tall order because Jace does the Jace thing where he draws a ton of cards.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it's difficult to play a card war against a Jace.
Right. Matt. I think Matt has the opportunity to Thoughtseize here, which he probably will take.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a Scavenging Ooze with that Thoughtseize, and that Thoughteize is in danger of becoming dead in the near future.
Right.
So, I mean, Thoughtseize and an Edict is a pretty nice turn here.
And
Is he getting rid of the Edict? No, he's another one in hand. Okay. That's
yeah,
fine.
he's putting Vendilion Click and Edict back on top of his deck.
Seems reasonable enough so that way he can play a Tar Pit this turn.
Yeah, winning through frustration is kind of still what he's doing. You know, eventually, he's just going to try to grind Pat out of everything. Sylvan Library is a good weapon by Pat to combat this. But, I mean, Jace draws more cards than Sylvan Library by a fair margin.
Yeah, you can only pay 8 so many times to stay ahead of the Jace.
I mean, Jace still is one of the most powerful Magic cards ever printed outside of converted mana cost. You know, like really, I mean, the only drawback to him is that he costs 4. All right, will Pat find a way? My guess would be no. All right, Pat's gonna keep an extra 1, so he's taking 5 this turn, dropping himself to 14.
And it's a Knight. Not really the greatest thing right now.
A little.
I mean,
it may. His hope would be that it forces Matt to get rid of his Liliana.
which it may.
Which it may.
Unfortunately, Matt's still going to be brainstorming with his Jace.
Right. Well, the thing is that Jace can unsummon and Liliana can make him discard it too, which I think is maybe a play he will make.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. I guess, there's no reach in Pat's deck. That might just be, and he already got the Dryad Arbor, so.
He's just going to choose to draw more cards though, because he knows he has a Diabolic Edict on the top of his deck.
Yeah, it's underneath the V click.
I mean, I don't see, especially with a player like with Matt, with a player like Costa piloting this, I don't really see how he will lose control of this game. I'm having trouble finding a series of draws that I think would really do that.
It's pretty rough at this point. I don't imagine.
He does have a one of Scrib Ranger, which can try to overload the end step, because a lot of Matt's removal is sorcery speed, but then again, a lot of it isn't. All right, so Diabolic Edict, land, and we'll start with the attacks. Cleaving Tar Pit puts Pat to 11. Liliana, Matt has no cards, so Liliana will go to 3.
And now, if Pat keeps more than one card that Sylvan Library twice, it just makes him. If he keeps both cards, he's dead to the Creeping Tar Pit. So suddenly, the Sylvan Libraries just become pretty weak.
So the removal. Why don't we talk a little about the removal suite and the choice of a removal suite from Matt Costa? Because as we said, this deck is typically designed to be somewhat of an anti-control deck, is I believe what you had said about it. So what in doing that and being able to play all these walkers that are good against control, Matt has to keep himself honest against aggro. Let's talk a little bit about the cards he's chosen to put in his deck for that.
Yeah. Now against aggressive decks, Matt has access to Snapcaster Mage, probably the best card against
Definitely
a deck like Maverick or Zoo.
So what I've noticed between you have Ghastly Demise, Diabolic Edict, Innocent Blood. It's a lot of and One Damnation. It seems like a lot of sacrifice-based effects. Would there be a reason he'd be doing that instead of say like Doomblade-ish or Vendetta-ish sort of effects?
Well, right now a lot of people are show and telling him Rockles into play, things of that sort. Nimble Mongoose is a threat that's pretty difficult to deal with. These removal spells are removal spells that are always going to hit something, and it's not like they're random tokens. People aren't really playing Lingering Souls anymore.
So after a couple turns of Matt brainstorming and Pat Cox Sylvan Library, eventually the Sylvan Library started drawing up dead, and Pat conceded the game. So on 3 life. So Matt Costa gets the first game there.
And Matt Costa handily taking that game.
So out of the board, Matt does have some access to a little more hard removal, it looks like. Pernicious Deed in particular will certainly be coming in for him.
Oh, definitely. He also has Perish.
Right. So we
It's
have
a pretty good one.
Perish is pretty good. It's a damnation, but a little bit on the cheap.
Yeah. It's a very good card.
Now, a card like Raven's Crime, that's probably not here. That's not for this deck. That's for a combo deck. Is there anything else? There's always that he has 3 surgicals in his board. I know oftentimes we talk about how people love surgical. I don't think it would come in here at all.
No, I don't.
This is the last call for
Spell Snare.
standard.
Spell Snare seems good. He has one
Spell Snare seems very good
Play
here.
standard.
Pithing Needle.
That is
There are cards in Pat's deck which he would care about would be things like Mother of Runes, which to me doesn't seem like it matters too much
Yeah, but you have
because
so
it's
many
all
sacrifice
sacrifice-based removal spells. So really just only those cards is what we will likely be seeing.
Scavenging Ooze, probably.
Right. Okay, he does have 3, he has 2 Scavenging Oozes of his own. That does seem pretty good.
But I don't know if the Scavenging Oozes really come in here. They might just be more for the... Because you can't take out your Innocent Bloods. And Scavenging Ooze might just be a card that's for, like, Rug and Blue-Red.
Now,
It's significantly better in those matchups.
definitely. Yeah, I'm not sure he needs to be playing creatures all of a sudden. It seems like his main game plan of just killing everything is probably pretty good. Now, out of Pat's deck, there's not very much of the sideboard he has access to. I see that he has 1 Thalia, which would probably see play. He could board in a Caracas if he wants to try to bounce his own Legends in response to sacrifice effects, which is pretty weak. The other cards he has, if he knows he could board in a Bojuka Bog, I don't really see too much he would be wanting to play. The rest of his board, if you're wondering, is Life from the Lone Path to Exile, Linvala, Thrun, Spike Feeder, Harmonic Sliver, Tormod's Crypt to Purify the Grave, and Sylvan Safekeeper. None of which I really like. The creatures like Thrun and Sylvan Safekeeper very weak to all this overloading on sacrifice. So they're intended to be like protection creatures, but I don't really see them doing that job. Largely, I think Pat's going to have to hope that if Pat executes his game plan and Costa executes his, Pat has got to just hope that his own game plan is a little bit stronger. If both players can just curve out, that Pat actually will just accomplish his goal faster. Cards like, I think the Sylvan Library is probably one of the most important cards for Pat in this matchup.
Yeah, Pat needs an aggressive start, and then he needs Matt to stumble too.
Yes.
Because if Matt does what Matt wants to do, it doesn't matter what Pat does.
Cast a kill spell every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to
Exactly.
be very hard.
Cards like Snapcaster are just going to put him too far ahead.
Snapcat, Innocent Blood, Edict, Inquisition, Innocent Blood, Edict, Brainstorm, Innocent Blood, Snapcaster, Edict. You'd be like,
It's pretty brutal.
Jace. To top off the curve. If Matt can do something like that, it's going to be very hard for Pat to stay in it.
But creature decks, people stumble.
Mm-hmm.
They're consistent.
Yes, Pat will have no problem of his opening hand will have threats in it. So it's really on Costa to see if Costa's opening hand has answers. So Pat keeps on the play, leads with Forest, no play, so no Noble Hierarch.
So the Raven's Crime did come in.
Okay, interesting. And Thalia, turn 2 for Pat. That's a 1. It's 3 Thalia on the main. So this is a 4 Thalia, possibly out of the board from Pat. Matt was planning to crime there.
Catacombs
Drowned Catacomb comes to play
and that
tap.
matters a lot. He has Dark Blast.
I mean, I'm still, yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
cool.
man, it looked cool, but...
I mean, he has 4 Underground Seas. Maybe he just wanted a 5th.
Oh, why can't... I mean, it could be Darkslick Shores. I don't know. I'm skeptical. Is it better than Darkslick Shores? Maybe. Okay, he's going to Dark Blast the Thalia. And then you see, yeah, so normally you do that on Pat's turn, except he's clearing the way for an Inquisition. So we see Gaddock Teague, Swords to Plowshares, and Scavenging Ooze. Swords to Plowshares stayed in, probably for lack of better cards to board in the spot.
Which is relatively unfortunate for Pat. All right, so Matt deciding what he's going to take here.
Well,
I imagine.
it depends on how much of his hand is cold to Gaddock Teague. Not much, I think, is the answer, so we went with Scavenging Ooze. Right, and he has a Caracas here, too. Remember that the Caracas, if it gets down to a point where Pat only has 1 creature in play, and that creature is Gaddock Teague, Caracas can kind of be used as a rescue here in this matchup, which is important for him to do so, actually.
Yeah, it's really important here.
But as long as there's a second creature out, that play doesn't really present itself. Costa does have a Snapcaster Mage here. He also has draws to work with, though. Because all the creatures are X2s, we probably won't see too much Dark Blast play yet.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw Brainstorm here, though.
Well, really what Costa needs to do is find a way to clear the current board. And I think that'll put him in control, if he can stick to that plan. Even something, something like Barter and Blood would be pretty good right now. Which
Barter
obviously
and Blood
doesn't
would be
have.
awesome.
Yeah, which he doesn't have, but anything that can accomplish that would be good.
Crack that draft deck open.
Yeah,
It's,
gotta find one. He does have 1 Damnation, which I suppose is like the same card, but a better version.
It's just a better barter.
And you're calling? I believe he's gonna... Yeah, the big thing is I think if he has kill spells, he needs to cast kill spells. So yeah, he's planning, I think he's committed himself to a Snapcaster line, but he wants to obviously do that on Pat's turn. Because that way the Exalted trigger does not happen. If you wait until so he's saving himself a life point by doing this on his opponent's turn.
Yeah. Now this is going to get Swords to Plowshares.
Yes.
But that's kind of fine. I mean, Matt's just going to take 1 then.
He'll take
And the Swords
3.
out of his hand.
No, you're right. 1. Sorry, he'll take 1 then.
You always forget. You always think it's Toughness.
Yeah. Well, Toughness is more of a white thing than his power.
It's an old card.
It's an older card. Alright, so Swords here. Cost will go up to 17. And then down to 13. And is he going the old... Okay. Putting... so when it comes to play, he's going to reveal it for himself. And drawing a Pernicious Deed.
Pernicious Deed is a good card.
It's a very good draw right now. If he has a 5th land, that's a... Well, remember that, Okay. Leaving that Caracas up, casting Knight of the Reliquary. Alright, Pat's all on the board. Deed is not... It's not exactly Perish or Damnation here, but it's close. Well, actually, Damnation would be terrible here. What am I saying? Perish would be excellent here.
Yes. Perish would be incredible here.
Damnation would be frustratingly not good. Yes, so the Raven's Crown in his hand is now on the bottom. When the V-Click came into play, because Pat chose to swords it with the trigger on the stack, so the swords couldn't get taken. I guess they didn't specify who Matt was targeting with the trigger. Matt ended up targeting himself.
Now Matt needs to cast this deed and crack it all in the same turn.
Otherwise, the Catholic Pride Mage will get it.
Yeah.
That's the standard challenge. You're
So the
carrying
fact that he
our
cast Brainstorm here makes me think he's not really committed to that line.
Well, I mean, he's going to do it next turn. It's just that right now he can't get up to 3 with it.
Right.
So he would be forced to leave the knight at the table.
The question is if he has, does he have anything he can do in the meantime? He can snap cast a Brainstorm, which is not, and then block something. Maybe block Gaddock Teague, which isn't particularly bad. Alright, he's going to crack Horizon Canopy pre-combat to push another damage through with Knight of the Reliquary. Just because Holly Pride Mage comes in, so that will make it a 3/3. So strong enough now because the Snapcaster cannot just block it.
And nice play from Pat there.
Yeah, that's really good. And he's going to attempt to cast Mother of Runes. Sacrificing a land. Knight of the Reliquary. Matt's letting all of this resolve. Remember, Matt's still all in on this play of cracking a deed on 3. And the Gaddock Teague will be saved off this deed crack. But the fact that Pat only swung 1 creep for 3 there has got to pretty much play into Costa's hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty huge. I'm sure Matt was very happy that
The whole team didn't
the whole
come in.
team didn't come in yet.
Alright, so Matt's going to fetch here. Fetching to clear the top of his deck for his end step Snapcasted Brainstorm. I think it's paramount that he finds his 6th land, so that will essentially bin the Snapcaster for just bin the little 2/1, but I think he may do that. Yep.
Yeah, he chooses to make your Brainstorm play. Has the Delta to crack it afterward.
Right. He's going to wasteland, and that wasteland there will keep Costa off of what he was looking for there. So his draw was Jace, 2 lands. He's going to put Jace and a land back. Then he will probably, then he'll crack his fetch on. So he's going to hope that the Snapcaster can keep him alive for 1 turn while he sets up this deed. It's a artist modified tropical island. It's very nice.
Yeah.
It's been extended.
I like it.
Yeah.
Take those borders away.
Sam Krupowitz and Lance
Place them with some water.
Please come to the open stage.
But yeah, the wasteland play pretty big, and where Knight of the Reliquary really is shining here is that he can essentially keep Matt off the 6 mana he's looking for. So what Matt might have to do is simply just crack. If he can crack the deed on 2, then he'll still get to save. You can crack the deed on 2, and you have this Innocent Blood, which isn't bad, but
It's definitely not the worst. I mean, at this point, I feel like he's going to crack the deed for 2.
well, he'll cast it, and then move to Pat's turn, but the deed's going off. Yep. So on end step, Pat may try to crack it here and then bounce his Gaddock Teague upon failure of it cracking. Or not. Interesting, okay. What do you make of that?
I don't know. It seems odd.
If he end step goes for it and then bounces his own Gaddock Teague when Costa's forced to crack it, he gets a free swing with the Knight and gets to recast Gaddock Teague on the next turn with Caracas up again.
Yeah, and then he can just lean on him.
Yeah. So I think I like that play. He's going to give Knight of the Reliquary Pro Blue an attack with... I don't think you want to attack with Gaddock Teague, because then he actually can kill the Gaddock Teague. Unless the Knight's lethal here, in which case none of this, it's all the same.
Yeah, then it's just free damage.
Well, it's pretty irrelevant because it means the thing it'll be getting blown up either way. Alright, so the Knight currently there's a wasteland. The Knight is a 5/5, so actually Matt could go to 1 here. Interesting. If you blocking there instead of on Gaddock Teague, If you block on Gaddock Teeg, then Pat can't actually save the Gaddock Teeg.
He'll be forced to bounce back to his hand, then you'll still have the
Then
Snapcaster
in
range,
response,
so-
but in response to the bounce back to his hand, then he can crack the D. Right. And another Mother of Runes. So Matt has Innocent Blood, Snapcaster, Innocent Blood, which is probably his play. Or actually Dredge Dark Blast, Innocent Blood. It's probably the better play.
Yes.
All right. I do feel...
The Dark Blast is easily forgotten about when you're not playing the game.
I
Dinosaurs are
I still don't like, if Pat had made that end step play, then Pat could have ended this turn with Mother of Runes, Gaddock Teeg, Knight of the Reliquary in play. And then the Knight of the Reliquary would still be alive here.
That seems pretty good. I also thought that Pat would have committed more to like the Wasteland lock.
To a point, I don't have a problem with once the Knight starts becoming lethal, like with him abandoning the Wasteland lock play, because, I mean, Matt hasn't actually... Once Matt commits the deed to the table, that's the biggest spell in Matt's hand. The Wasteland lock doesn't really do much.
Oh yeah,
for
well
you.
after the deed comes down, then
I think, then we're...
it just changes everything so much.
Noble Hierarch and Sylvan Library, so he just has to push him 3 more damage. Remember, he's a green-white deck, so 3 damage is actually a lot if he just doesn't have control. We're debating whether or not... He does have a Snapcaster. He does not have a way to counter it. He's barely telegraphing the Snapcaster, which is okay. Gonna dredge the Dark Blast. Yes. Preordain, Innocent Blood, and Brainstorm hit the graveyard. Remember, Matt does have another Snap, so his hand is now post Dark Blast. It's Snapcaster, Mage, and a fetch land. Pat still at 20. Matt just needs to essentially find a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, at this point, if he gets a Jace and gets to stick on it to the table, he'll just win. Very similarly to how we won the first game.
Right.
Jace just trumps Sylvan Library in a war.
Whereas on the other hand, what Pat's probably going to try to do is, I imagine that Pat will take 8 damage on his next turn.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is your opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, he milled Diabolic Edict, not Innocent Blood. So he has an Edict and an Innocent Blood in his graveyard, both live for Snapcaster.
Yeah, the Edict is an instant also, so
right, which is
pretty awesome. Snapcaster.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pat's looking at the top 3 cards. I feel like on principle you just have to take all of them, like this is your window. He takes 1 and we'll drop to 16. If he has a reshuffle, I understand that, but otherwise I would just almost want to dig deeper, because you're going to see the same cards next turn. Knight of the Reliquary. Okay. Passes the turn. I think we'll get an end step Innocent Blood. Or Diabolic Edict would be my guess.
Yeah, Snapcaster Edict.
I mean, it may be. The thing is Matt probably also would like to snap a Brainstorm pretty well. It's hard to say. I think he's got to go for the Edict. Yep, Snapcaster Diabolic Edict. Okay, so now Matt has no more actual, card draw, card find here. He's playing off the top of his deck.
Yeah, not really where you want to be when you're playing a deck like Matt's.
Nope, he drew the card, just glanced at it. And on this board, the Sylvan Library is now the most important card, and Matt cannot find a Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, Sylvan Library is just going to let Pat pull so far ahead. Just has a huge amount of library manipulation, and not only that, but he can also card advantage with it.
Pat's hand has improved to, so he has another Wasteland here. There's no Tar Pits, he's already wasted that. So Pat will probably hang on to the Wasteland for a while. Casting Gaddock Teeg, and he will certainly want to keep Caracas up at all times for this. Or not.
Huh. I suppose not.
Almost trying to bait Matt into play another Sylvan Library. In doubles, does that do anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, Kind of, right?
Does it mean I could draw a lot of cards if I wanted to? I can use the one to draw an extra card, and then after that I can library again.
At the opening stage.
Okay.
So
So it gives Pat like he can dig one deeper. Well, theoretically twice. If he chooses to keep a card, then he can look at the next top 3. So it's a marginal value, but not of non-existent value.
yeah, I mean there are a number of other things that Matt can do with the.
Now he's
Sorry.
choosing to commit here in this way instead of protecting his own Gaddock Teague. I think they're discussing the rules implications of this now. It's harder with Sylvan Library because the card's actual text is not the printed text.
Yeah.
The card printed
a lot
text
of
has it
old
printed
cards
as an activated ability for 0, which you can play only during your draw step, I believe, which I know is not how the card's Oracle reads.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
A lot of the cards from that time period now actually have different text than is
Right.
printed on the card. You know, to be honest, most Magic cards have different text now.
Most of the ones with a lot of ones with the old card frame now have different text. New card frame, I think you're pretty safe going with the current text. As long as you can translate comes into play to enters the battlefield, you're probably okay.
That's true. But we do have to remember
Yeah.
the battlefields.
Costa has another edict. He's gonna. Brad Nelson, update here. Legacy not working out so well for him, has dropped to 4-2 this round.
I'm very upset about this.
Yeah.
Which means lost Adam Prozac
Lost-
this round.
Lost Adam Prozac, so Adam Prozac moves up to 5-1, and Prozac has locked a spot in day 2.
So who do we have that's locked up for day 2?
Locked up for day 2 so far, Adam Prozac, Jerry Thompson, Jim Davis, and Michael Hetrick are already all locked into day 2. Presumably, they're hoping to get much better records, and the winner of this match will be a lock for day 2. So Matt was able, I think that's the play again where I really didn't like the committing of the second Sylvan Library. He allowed his Gaddock Teague to get edicted there, which if the library's up, that Diabolic Edict is not a card. Or if his Caracas is up, sorry, not library. And Snapcaster will get swords. Okay, that's fine. Matt will go to 5. Gives Matt permission now to crack his fetch land. Before, I think when he had the Gaddock Teague in play, he was a little hesitant about cracking the fetch land because Gaddock Teague swings for 2. Will turn a Brainstorm for Matt into a safer draw 3.
Yes. And, those 2 life, really important, especially when you're at 5. You take 1 from that delta, and suddenly you're on a 2-turn clock as opposed to a 3-turn clock.
Pat searches up a Dryad Arbor, which will probably elicit another Dark Blast from Costa. Recall that he can also reset his Brainstorms by actually end-stepping Brainstorms because of Dark Blast in his deck, which I know normally there's the good piece of advice where you say, end-stepping a Brainstorm is probably the wrong time to be casting it, but there are situations, with a Dark Blast, you actually lets you reset your own Brainstorms. And he casts Scavenging Ooze. Well, Dark Blast was probably, it's a very good draw. Dark Blast, remember, Matt doesn't have, most of the effects are Edict effects, and Dryad Arbor will protect Scavenging Ooze. Scavenging Ooze will also be lethal on the very next swing. Costa will need to draw a Damnation or a Perish, or
Ghastly Demise would work.
Or Ghastly Demise. I think that's all he has, which he can draw here. Jace the Mind Sculptor will buy him a turn. He has Liliana of the Veil, and he has Dark Blast. That should do it. Yeah, so it's the Dark Blast already being back in his hand. That does mean he's going to lose the Dark Blast, presumably. No, in response, actually, Pat's not going to eat the Dark Blast. He's going to eat his own creature.
Huh.
I think I would have preferred the Dark Blast to go there. The creatures can be eaten on his own turn to make the swing lethal. He doesn't, you don't need to push that now. Because now that you don't...
do you really need, you only need 1 counter from the turn before.
Yeah. So now, because now the creature's dead and Costa still has his Dark Blast. Which I think Costa shouldn't have the Dark Blast anymore. Or it's a very powerful weapon to have continued access to. So he's going to cast Thrun. And Liliana, 1 counter 2 few to really deal with Thrun. She can work at it, but not there yet. Matt has a land and another land. That's going to be game, I believe. No, wait, Matt's actually at 5, so... Alright, Liliana goes up. Both players discard.
It's one of the fun parts about Liliana is that neither player ever has a hand.
Yeah.
That's why it's so exciting.
One player has some libraries. So do you swing to 1 or do you kill the Liliana? I have to assume it's the Liliana.
I think you have to kill the Liliana.
Yep. And now you have Caracas protecting Thrun, which is just gravy. I don't see any way for Costa to get out from under this.
Yeah, I mean, especially that he has Caracas with the Thrun. Even a Damnation, Innocent Blood, Diabolic Edict, none of them are good enough right now.
It would take 2 Diabolic Edicts. Or one effect plus a Diabolic Edict. You could sack once in response to the Caracas Edict him.
Yes. Or you could activate a Liliana in their response.
Right. Alright, so the first thing he does, I think, here is he life from the I think he wastelands the Caracas. He'll do that, I guess, on end step. Not entirely certain why, but Parish has a no regeneration clause on it, correct?
I believe it does.
Okay, so there's a way. Cavern of Souls was shown there. There's a 1 of Cavern of Souls in Pat's deck. And once again, he's taking down Caracas for Green Sun Zenith. Okay, he's going to try to get Noble Hierarch and go for the kill here. And that should do it. Once he puts in play, Matt will probably scoop. Yep. Alright, they're going to game 3.
Yep, going to move on to game 3 here. How do you think... I don't think the sideboarding is going to be much different from...
No, I think it's still the same grinding sort of
game.
game.
Game 3.
Yeah, Costa played that pretty well. One of the questions I still think is early on whether or not the pitching that Jace was... Well, whether it was affordable. With this sort of deck, and I'm sure Costa has experience with this. There are, there's a certain number of like those Jace style cards that you need to have one to close out the game. When you pitch them, you have to kind of anticipate how long you expect the game to go, and how many of those style cards are left in your deck. You have to think, okay, will I? You don't want to get in the spot where you've won, but then you unwin in the sense of your opponent actually overtakes your control and gets back in, which is more or less what happened. It did it on the back of Sylvan Library, which is, like I said, one of Pat's best cards in this matchup. I think in that case, I don't know if he could have ever gotten to the late game without pitching the Jace, so maybe it was a losing battle both ways.
Yeah, again, Maverick on the play.
Yeah.
It's gonna be pretty aggressive.
Do you think play versus draw is very significant in this matchup?
Maybe not.
It seems like... I would say, I think it's relevant in every matchup. I guess I'll start by saying that, but...
I mean, it's definitely something that's relevant in the game. That's extremely hard to balance, and the play or draw rule is a pretty good balance. It's about as close as you can get.
Right, but when I think about in this matchup, like, would I mind being on the draw in this matchup? Well, I suppose I'd prefer the play, but I think of putting all matchups together, this one's, I think, pretty even. The extra card is pretty relevant here.
Yeah, that's something I liked a lot about the deck, was that the extra card matters.
Yeah, the extra card definitely does, especially I think it's Costa's deck that does that to the game. So, the Thrun is a 1-of that came in out of the board. Really, it's that...
He can Zenith for it.
Yep, the Thrun plus Caracas. I still felt in that matchup, Pat didn't realize just how good Caracas is against Matt Costa's deck. I feel like he was taking it down a lot more, and it's one of those things, it's fairly subtle when you're grinding people out, but I did feel like Caracas is just very good.
Yeah, a lot of people make mistakes and don't really recognize the power level of a card like Caracas.
Yeah, that sort of ability is, first of all, is completely unfair on the land, which is why you'd never see a card like Caracas printed again.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean is that there are a lot of
Yeah.
cards that don't necessarily seem so great when you play them, but when
Right.
you have them played against you, you suddenly realize just how brutal it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good example of that would be something like Ancient Grudge, even in Standard.
Definitely.
A lot of people have played other artifact removal spells in decks that could support Ancient Grudge in the recent history, and
It's like, oh, it's safer.
before they
I don't know,
have
it's safer. And it's like,
a
yeah, I don't know if
third
you
Ancient
realize
Grudge.
just how good Ancient Grudge is against the decks it's good against.
And they're like, well, I never flash it back unless my opponent already had 2 artifacts in play. Like, that's because if they ever drew another artifact, they never played it because you had the Grudge in your yard.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. There's some cards that really. Outside that, I think outside of the so Caracas is kind of, I think, one of the hidden gems in Pat's deck in this matchup. Both players playing this matchup very well, though.
Both very solid players.
Yep. So Matt on the opts on the play for Game 3. Still has not won with his Legacy deck. He will turn 1 go Tropical Island into Preordain. Top, he will decide to Sleight of Hand with his Preordain. Top, bottom, draw. His opening hand has a couple more lands. He has a Liliana of the Veil. And he'll get Wastelanded turn 1 by Pat, which is just fine by him. He had quite a few lands, I think. He still has a Bayou, a Tropical Island, and a Polluted Delta, which is what he plays. Presumably not wanting to get Wastelanded again. So, Pat Cox.
Very reasonable mana base
Yeah.
for this game.
Forest go. No Noble Hierarch, which would have been good. I mean, Costa actually has the Dark Blast in his hand. So Costa's hand has Perish, Liliana of the Veil, Dark Blast, Tropical Island, Diabolic Edict. Creatures.
All of the removal spells.
All of the creatures will die. How many? All of them.
They will all be killed. It's going to be a massacre.
And he's going to Wasteland the Bayou that Costa played. And still have no play, though. Wasteland here not actually hindering Matt Costa very much. He has a Jace the Mind Sculptor now, I guess. So Matt plays a Tropical Island. He does not have a third land, but he has plenty of gas. He has plenty of, I guess how about this? He has plenty of kill spells at 1 and 2 mana. And Kasali Pride Mage will come down for Pat Cox. Probably this will elicit a end of turn. Well, maybe not end. He's actually, Costa's going to Brainstorm here. Hopefully getting more lands. He has a Spell Pierce, Brainstorm. Inquisition, so no more lands. If he does have a fetch land, I believe he's going to put back Jace. And I'm imagining Spell Pierce is the other one that goes. Matt's probably not going to waste the Edict right now because he's setting up. He wants to get Cox to play into a Perish. Yep, Spell Pierce, Jace, both on top, and they're going to get shuffled away by. So Matt cracks fetch land, goes down to 19. His hand now is Dark Blast. What is it? Dark Blast, Diabolic Edict, Liliana of the Veil, Perish, and I'm missing one, but it's all the kill spells.
I mean, when you have a hand like this, it's just going to be almost impossible or something.
Well, what you want to do is you want to get it to score a quick 2-for-1 off the Perish while you still can. So you probably will take, and then Inquisition is the last card. So you probably will spend this turn he has Inquisition and Brainstorm as last 2 cards. So it's probably spend this turn Inquisitioning and Brainstorming. Matt does draw the third land, so I guess he does have the option of Liliana Edict now. Though he still might not. No, he's not going to do it though. He's going to do the other play. He's going to Inquisition, and he sees Jite, Mother of Runes, Green Sun Zenith, Cavern of Souls, Savannah. So 2 creatures and a Jite. Jite probably does not matter at all here, and 3 lands. One of which is a Cavern of Souls, but Matt doesn't have any counter spells, so he's going to take the Jite. I think the reason he takes Jite here is because that will allow Pat to just make any one of his creatures lethal in a certain sense. Matt would still like to keep a Planeswalker alive. He can really 2-for-1. Yeah, plays a fetch line and says go, and he's going to end step Brainstorm, crack fetch, and presumably Perish. I imagine what Matt would really hoping. So Pat will swing the Pride Mage. Matt will go down to 16. He's probably really hoping that Cox will play a Green Sun Zenith for something like a Scavenging Ooze here. Cavern of Souls down. It is naming Human and then casting Mother of Runes. So they're naming Human or Cleric, right? She's a Cleric.
I think she is. It says Summon Cleric on her, I believe, but she is a human.
Okay.
Older cards.
Sure. Well, I know she was cast off the Mother. I'm wondering if there's whether it makes more sense for him named you'd name human off it, right? Because then it also casts Knight of the Reliquary and
Snapcaster
and Noble Hierarch, right? Noble
Hierarch is a human.
Yes, it's not a druid. It's a human druid. It's not an elf.
Okay, it's definitely not an elf.
That's the big moral of the story. Is that it's not an elf, even though you think, oh, one card, one green mana producer, and you're like, oh no, you're not an elf.
Stoneforge Mystic, not a human.
No, it's a core.
Which is like a different type of person.
I know, no, Stoneforge Mystic does not play nice. Okay, so he's going to Dark Blast the Mother of Runes. Does not play nice with Cavern of Souls. You could either name Core or you could name Artificer. Both of which. No. Right, Cavern is unhuman, yeah. So Matt's going to Diabolic Edict. Well, not he's going to Liliana Edict. Sorry. And not play the land in his hand, presumably to feed it to Liliana.
That's one of the great parts about Liliana in this format.
And just Zenith for 3, we'll get Knight of the Reliquary for Pat Cox.
You end up with all these extra cards in your hand.
Remember, Costa on Perish and Diabolic Edict and Brainstorm. He is 1 Jace short of locking this game up.
And he even has the land in his hand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now he can just...
Well, he has a Brainstorm. That's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat card here. I mean, to be honest though, he probably wouldn't cast the Brainstorm until his hand starts looking bad. He has a Wasteland here. That doesn't really do too much.
Well, you never really cast Brainstorm until your hand looks terrible, right?
Yeah. So probably just, he'll Edict here. Yep, leaving up a blue in case he wants to Brainstorm later. Diabolic Edict will get Knight of the Reliquary. I think he'll just tick Liliana up. Probably get rid of his Wasteland. Yep, getting rid of Wasteland. And then say go. His hand is Perish, Brainstorm, Underground Sea. Pat Cox's hand, pretty devoid of cards.
Yeah, so... Looks like
He will
Pat
play
is a Fauna Shaman.
Fauna Shaman, and will cavern up a Mother of Runes. And so Matt can dredge a Dark Blast and kill the Mother of Runes. And Pat is out of cards in his hand now, for the record. He played his last card, which is a Windswept Heath.
Oh, Pat's completely out of cards?
Pat has no cards in hand. So Costa decides now is a good time to need to Brainstorm. Draw 1, 2, 3, and then he can, because he's going to, this Brainstorm is good because he's going to upkeep Dredge. So he can get rid of his Spell Snare and Spell Pierce. Keep the kill spell he found here. He's getting rid of Spell Pierce and some black card, which I don't see what it was. But he's going to upkeep Dredge. So that essentially resets his own Brainstorm. So we'll see. The Dredge was, it's Inquisition. Okay, that's not really a very good spell right here. And he also dredges away a Thoughtseize.
But now you can just Dark Blast away the Mom, use Liliana to get rid of the Fauna Shaman.
No, Liliana's dead, which I think would be a little sad about.
I mean, it's important to find a way to, like...
He could play land, Dark Blast, Perish, and then discard his own Spell Snare.
That seems worse than just the Dark Blast minus Liliana, doesn't it?
It's close. I think I prefer Dark Blast minus Liliana. Liliana's not going ultimate this game. I think you're right. The problem is that, the biggest problem with Liliana, actually, remember that Windswept Heath here can find Dryad Arbor. So the edicting effect from Liliana is actually not a legitimate kill spell. We'll see if Matt Costa realizes this as well. Yeah, he's going to Dark Blast the Mother Runes. And he's going to Perish. Yep. So I think Matt correctly recognizes the play of finding Dryad Arbor. Take up 1, discard his own Spell Snare. Yep. So do you think, I think the finding the Dryad Arbor there makes that the correct line as opposed to the other one?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, otherwise, like, you can have a real problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise the Fauna Shaman doesn't die. So both players out of cards now. Pat Cox with the Dryad Arbor in play. Matt Costa with the Liliana on 2 counters in play. Pat draws a card, says go. Costa's debating, I think, whether he wants to dredge Dark Blast. He probably does. He wants to see the graveyard. It's probably best to, to Dark Blast and then Liliana -1 here. Liliana +1. This seems like the natural play. I can't think of what Pat would be holding on to. So, and he has a Raven's Crime in the graveyard now.
Ooh, so as soon as he finds that loam, he can kind of...
And no hand will be safe. Swords to Plowshares. Okay, it's an uncastable card from Pat. And Pat will draw Wasteland and will waste Costa off of green. Yep. Shrug. Unfortunate. You can probably draw something like Life from the Loam now.
Obviously. You always draw the Life from the Loam.
Matt, I think, checking through his deck to see... Matt did not opted not to use his Liliana and hang on to the card he drew instead. Which means it's probably a kill spell. Or the Life from the Loam. That's, I think, the other part.
Those are about the two things it could be. Oh, I think it's a Snapcaster Mage. Actually.
Even better. So both players just playing Drago for a bit until Gaddock Teague comes down for Pat Cox. Alright, that'll be probably enough to force some action on Costa. Costa did draw a fetch land. He's going to Innocent Blood, though, instead. Play his fetch land, say go. So Liliana's still hanging out at 3. There's a Snapcaster Mage in his hand in Costa's hand that he doesn't really want to get rid of. Costa, with most of the decks he plays, is very patient at really do-nothing decks.
Yeah, I mean, not only is he patient, but he's also very fast with them.
Which is very important.
Super important.
Yeah. Alright. The question is, what Pat needs is, really needs a Sylvan Library or some way to break this parity that's going on.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, both players are playing off the top.
So, Life from the Loam from Pat Cox now. Alright, he did board. He has this one Life from the Loam in his board, which has come in. Now he's going to try to be the Wasteland player. This source of card advantage will be pretty good, and actually it'll be Infinite Dryad Arbors. It's kind of, I like how it's kind of a dorky way to win, but it's maybe instead he's going to get 3 Wastelands right now. And Matt, now under the gun, is going to Snapcast a Brainstorm. And he did draw a Mind Sculptor off it. Very huge. Just huge there, actually.
And now that he has this Chase the Mind Sculptor, the game was already pretty tough for him to lose. And
well, if he bricked there, he could have gotten Wasteland out of this game, to be fair. He had very few turns to stay at 4 mana. You know, he's going to get Wastelanded every turn for the rest of the game. Once he got down below 4 mana, Jace and both Jace and Creeping Tarpit would have stopped being win conditions. So he kind of hit that Jace in the nick of time.
And Jace comes down.
Alright, so first
starts brainstorming.
Or Fate Sealing. Probably brainstorming. Alright, Matt has found his own Life from the Loam. Which means he'll probably just start dropping his own lands.
Yep.
He puts Deed Preordained back on top, keeping in hand Liliana Loam. Or, sorry, Deed Loam in hand. He put the Liliana back on top, and I think he'll make another land drop here. Yep, we'll play a land. And that was time in the round that was called, right?
Was time called in the round?
Time was just called there, which actually is pretty poor timing for Matt Costa. This match has been going quite a while, and I kind of imagine it's going to end up in a draw. Thalia plus Noble Hierarch plus Wasteland your land. It's possible that these guys have a time extension. We did move them from one table to the other, so for right now we'll commentate assuming that they're still playing. Yeah, they have a 5-minute extension.
Okay.
But after hearing that, Matt's gotta probably be thinking pedal to the metal. Alright, he's gonna dredge Dark Blast for his draw, getting rid of Liliana, Preordain, another Jace the Mind Sculptor. Now he's gonna crack his fetch land for a green for a tropical island. So he's going to play Dark Blast on 2 on Thalia and then Loam. Probably Fate Seal Jace go, I think.
Yeah, at this point he can start fate sealing with
Wait,
Jace.
he has to
There's
watch out
no
because fate sealing with
library
Jace takes a lot of turns to win, and he just may not have very many turns. But I don't see another way he actually gets to win here. So I mean, Matt's aware of these things. He'll probably play quickly. Loam back 3 lands. Yep, so he plays Dark Blast, Loam.
Alright, so
Liliana
Liliana,
Edict.
kill this Noble Hierarch.
Snapcaster may swing, I suppose. Play a land.
Eventually.
Yep. Jace will go to Jace will go to 5 to Fate Seal. And it's a Green Sun Zenith, said put it on the bottom. Alright. Passes the turn. So we'll see. We'll let you know when time is called here. I think the match now has become Matt Costa versus the clock.
Yes. Definitely
Okay,
has. At this
wastelanded.
point, Matt's
Say go.
just trying to fate seal Pat before
Alright, he's gonna Fate Seal Pat.
time runs out.
And Pat's gonna keep a bunch of cards in his hand to presumably prolong the game. Liliana goes up, both players discard. Both discard a land. Costa will just say go. Surprised he didn't drop his own land there, so he didn't get wastelanded out.
There have been a lot of turns where he hasn't been playing lands in his hands.
Yeah. Pat Cox is gonna get a land out of his hand end step. So 3rd Savannah.
I mean, against a deck like Maverick, you never really need more than 4 lands in this deck. So once you get to 4, you can kind of just slow roll other lands so you can bring them away eventually when you hit a fetch land. So
He's going to tap 4 for Green Sun Zenith on 3. Sure, that will resolve. It's a Knight of the Reliquary. Costa will, and a Sylvan Safekeeper. Well, that's good and all, but he's going to probably dredge the Dark Blast. Yep. 3 more cards going to the bin, none of which are consequential. He will Dark Blast that and Diabolic Edict Pat, then Fate Seal. Matt now is definitely picking up the pace. It's another card. Can't tell what it is. I can't imagine it matters. It'll go on the bottom. I guess it probably wasn't a land. Matt plays a 5th land, says go. Jace now at 9. Scavenging Ooze has been played. Matt did not activate his Liliana there. Alright, he'll untap. Think here. And pay 3 mana for Pernicious Deed. Deed on 2. And Pat's going to eat 2 things out of Costa's graveyard. Presumably one of them will be the life from the Loam. Maybe the Loam's in Costa's hand.
I believe so.
Jace the Mind Sculptor goes up to 11. And card stays on top. And Matt chooses to keep Liliana at 2, I believe. Okay, let's say Pat Cock gives him the concession.
And I mean, at this point, it's,
it depends on
may have been called, something like that. At this point, it's...
I mean, Pat can't win. The question is if he could have forced a draw. He either decided that he couldn't force one or is choosing not to force one. But Matt Costa moves up to, I believe, 5-1. Pat Cox drops to 4-2. So Costa into day 2. Pat Cox is going to need one of these last 2 rounds. Pat conceded in that board state.
I mean, how do you not concede?